Andersen Fairytales, The Snow Queen, illustrated by John Patience. The Snow Queen. Once, a magician made an evil mirror. All good things reflected in it became ugly and distorted. When mischievous goblins stole it, it fell and shattered into a million tiny pieces, which blew all around the world. If a piece entered a person's heart, he would become wicked, and if it entered his eye, he would see strangely and find fault with everyone. A boy named Kay and a girl named Gerda lived near each other. One winter, Kay's grandmother told them of the cruel Snow Queen who would fly in a snowstorm and look in at windows so that they became covered with ice. When they were playing the next day, Kay gave a sudden cry of pain. Splinters of the mirror had entered his heart and his eyes, and he shouted at Gerda and kicked over her snowman before he ran away to play alone. When a big white sledge drove by, Kay tied his small one to it for a free ride. When the driver looked at him, Kay realized it was the Snow Queen. She stopped. Kay climbed in beside her and they flew away to the Queen's palace in the frozen north. Gerda searched for Kay, sailing down river to a little thatched house where an old witch cast a spell on her to make her forget Kay. She made all the roses in the garden disappear so they would not remind Gerda of the roses at home and make her think of Kay. But she forgot the rose painted on her hat, and one day Gerda noticed it and remembered Kay and ran away. A crow spoke to Gerda and told her Kay was in a palace where he had just married a princess. Gerda crept into the palace and found a room with two beautiful flower-shaped beds, but the prince was not Kay. Gerda made her way through the woods and a girl from a band of robbers took pity on her. The girl's pet bird told Gerda that Kay was with the Snow Queen in the land of ice and snow, and a pet reindeer offered to take Gerda through the forest to the Snow Queen's garden. The reindeer leapt away through the great forest over marshes and moors as fast as he could go. Wolves howled, ravens shrieked, and the colors of the northern lights flashed in the sky. He carried Gerda to the edge of the Snow Queen's garden and put her down by a bush covered with red berries. Then he licked her face with his rough tongue and bounded away. Gerda ran towards the Snow Queen's palace, and an army of huge snowflakes blew towards her. Some were like polar bears with icicle fur. The Snow Queen sat on an icicle throne on a frozen lake in the middle of the palace, with Kay crouched at her feet. The Snow Queen had given Kay the task of spelling out the word eternity. E-T-E-R-N-I-T-Y with pieces of ice, and had promised she would free him if he could do it. She then told him she was going away to make snowstorms and left him in the vast icy hall. It was then that Gerda appeared. She ran into the great hall and flung her arms around Kay. He was stiff with cold and did not know her. Gerda began to cry. Her warm, loving tears fell upon Kay's chest and sank right inside him. They melted the splinter of glass in his heart. Then Kay began to cry too, and the splinters in his eyes were washed away. As the children watched, the pieces of ice began to dance around, about by themselves. They spelled the word eternity. Kay was free. Hand in hand, Gerda and Kay ran out of the Snow Queen's palace. The reindeer was waiting for them and carried them away over the snow faster than the wind. On and on they went until at last they saw the high towers of the city where they lived. They went to grandmother's door, up the staircase and into the room. Everything was just as it had been, and they both lived happily ever after. The end.